Dr. Maury, Uncivilized Vitality. I still have laryngitis. We're going to do a book review in a different way. This is a great book, Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Pelz, and the foreword is by Leanne Rimes. Isn't that like a singer?
Yeah.
All right, Leanne Rimes is chiming in. This is a great book. It's all about fasting, and that's one of the big proponents of Uncivilized Vitality. And to discuss the book, Fast Like a Girl, are two girls. Chief Bonnie and YouTube organizer extraordinaire, Rendelle.
Hilarious.
So we both just dove into Dr. Mindy's work recently. I listened to the audiobook version, and then I purchased the book because I knew I needed to be able to reference it.
Actually, I started with the Kindle version, and then I was highlighting too much electronically, so
Yeah.
I got the book as well.
So I think, and you checked out her YouTube a lot too. She has a great YouTube.
A little bit. I checked
Okay.
it out a little bit. I actually found, I agree with most things in the book. The YouTube has a few things I don't much care for.
Okay.
And so, like when you're fasting and you feel hungry, do this, and it'll be a product to go purchase and put into your water.
Yeah.
And I personally, if there's something you can have, then I want to try to find a natural input for that.
Yeah.
Or bypass it.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so I started reading and listening to Fast Like a Girl because as part of the 5 Vital Paths, the nourishment path, the third little tagline under nourishment is occasionally do not eat. And I would go to Maury and I would say, I just don't know if that applies to women, or if women should do this the way that men do it. There's just so much like contradicting information out there is what I've seen.
Oh yeah.
And being someone who like educates on the menstrual cycle and hormones, I was really worried about fasting affecting people's menstrual cycle health. So that's when he said, you really got to read this book. And, you know, he has a great chapter in here about fasting, and it's, you know, kind of broad because it's meant for everybody, right? Whereas Fast Like a Girl really, even though, like you said, the first couple chapters.
First 3 chapters, everybody.
Yeah, apply to
Male and
everybody.
female. Yep.
Yeah. But then she really does get into the nitty-gritty of what phases of the menstrual cycle you should be fasting and how long, and also the phase of the cycle that you do not fast at all, which I really, really, really appreciated and I agreed with. So it helped me feel a lot more comfortable fasting in a way that was going to support my menstrual cycle health and not tank my hormones while trying to gain the other benefits of things like immune benefits, gut health, all of the many benefits of fasting.
What was I going to say? Oh, I, on the other hand, have accepted this in life and I'm okay with it, but I don't like saying it out loud. I am hitting that point in my life with perimenopause. And so for me, Dr. Maury and Bonnie recommended the book Fast Like a Girl. That's how we both ended up here. I think you said it first, and then Maury's like, yes, definitely that. Because I had tried the fasting, which I'm going to throw a little ding up here for a link to fasting video by UV, where Dr. Maury speaks on that. But I had tried the intermittent fasting, and I was getting nowhere, and I was still getting the negative ramifications of hormone fluctuations at my point in my life. And this is really helping to clarify all those things. It hits the science and the specifics and the citations and the medical journals it's, I wouldn't say dumbed down. It's quite intelligent, but Dr. Pelz doesn't have it too, what's the word, sciencey? Is that technical?
Yeah,
word?
like medical jargony.
Right. It's not over your head. It's pretty easy to go through.
She even has like good graphics in here that really help. So there's a graphic for
the hormones, because men have one hormone, women have 3 hormones to contend with. That's why we get super complicated. Was it the progesterone? You actually feed it instead of
you
hold
gotta
back?
feed your progesterone. Yeah, so she's got really good graphics in here.
You'll hold it up for.
Yeah, and you could even, in the audiobook version of this, you were able to see these PDFs. So
Nice.
I think I listened to it for free on Spotify Premium. But yeah, she breaks it down to the exact days of your cycle and the range of hours that you could fast for that. Mm-hmm. So overall, a quick explanation is that while you're menstruating is a pretty good time to fast. And I always agreed with that before reading the book, because you're not trying to create as many hormones, right? So if our hormones are created by the nutrition that we eat and we fast at the wrong time, right, we don't want to work against our hormones. But and most women will say to me, I don't feel hungry when I'm menstruating anyway. So, go with that, right?
Listen to your body.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool mechanism.
Yeah. And there's, more specifics, about when you're ovulating and shortly after you're ovulating. But for the majority of that luteal phase, the last 10 days of your cycle, you really should not be fasting. And I agree with that as well. You really don't want to hinder your production of progesterone, or you're going to be dealing with things like PMS and not fun things. So it's a great book.
One of the things, I have a daughter, and she's a young adult, and I was just telling her about how I just read in there about the PMS thing. Women are like, oh, I'm so cranky, started my time. And she says, actually, your body naturally wants to relax.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of mindset things that she addresses in there that I really like.
Yep. Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about, so fasting, there's a world of, I've heard, so, I go to church and there's a lot of the fasting in the biblical way and focusing on God. There's a lot of fasting with, what is it, not the Buddhist, the Hindi, I think they do fasting. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of religious connotations to it. So there's a lot of broad strokes here. And then there's the health aspect of it, which is, I know what got me into it, and then the women's health. But there's a lot of people who, there's misgivings of types of fasting, right? I'm doing the smoothie fast. I'm doing the grain fast. I'm doing the, it's all fads. I mean, really look at what people are trying to get out of this. This fasting by abstaining from eating it's a pretty cool thing. You don't have to buy anything. Nobody's selling you anything. At most, I mean, you can get this whole book through her YouTube channel.
Yeah, right.
For free. So,
from the library, yeah.
And we'll put a link to her in the description of this video. But I wanted to say some of the links, right? So there's the intermittent fasting, which is going 8 or more hours within a day, right, of not eating. You can have water. And then you can have, like, say, coffee or tea, right? But you just can't put anything in it. It has to be just straight, like, colored water from your coffee or tea. And then you work on that for a while, and you can do 24 hours. I know I was doing the intermittent fasting, but some days it was great, some days it wasn't. Now we know about the woman's cycle. Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, and the woman's cycle is not, I'm having my week, right? It's the full cycle of the phases of your whole month.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But then there's so I know I did a couple of 24s, and it was based on how I felt. Mm-hmm. There were some days where I was like, I was really hungry, and it didn't really have anything to do with anything. And then a couple of days where I was like, no, I think I can challenge myself to 24 hours. And then today I'm super, super proud because I kind of fell into a 36-hour fast, and I actually wrapped it up at 38 hours today, which has huge health benefits.
Yep.
And then there's 48 hours, and the Noel and BL is 72 hours. So I know that's a goal for me, but with time. It's not something you just jump into, though.
No. I, started intermittent fasting to get my nourishment sphere for UV, and then, messed around with a couple 24 hours. And then when I had more, information with this book and consulting with my doctor, I was able to complete a 72-hour recently. And it was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. And I learned a lot. But you definitely need to do this in a way where you're easing into it. And there's actually, in Dr. Mindy's book, there's a whole, I think she calls it reset that you want to do before you even start fasting if you haven't been. So, and the other thing I really like that she talks about is like how to break a longer fast. So I've talked to so many people that are like, yeah, I did a 48-hour or 72, and then I just ate everything in sight. And then
I celebrated with cake.
Yeah. And, it actually took me over 4 hours to break my fast in the way that it was intended. So there's very specific steps, and I felt great after doing them that way and really sticking to that instead of just jumping in and eating pasta or whatever that looked really good.
Right. Which blood sugar is a huge factor in all that, right? Like, that was one thing I ended up getting the glucose meter because she recommends to say, well, if your system's so jacked up that you have a poor insulin response to everything, then even just black coffee is going to set off an insulin response, and you're no longer in a fasting state. So I tried that, and I was very happy to find out I could have black coffee. I even found out I could put butter in my coffee, so I could get a little bit of a tang to it, and that was very helpful to me. But so I have a list here of just some of the many, many things that are benefits from fasting of various links, right? And I know that I personally have a lot of family and friends who are experiencing a lot of these. So we all know blood pressure is a big thing for a lot of people. BMI is another one that's big for a lot of people, especially when you're hitting like my age where everything's slowing down and everything's different. And so that's very helpful. We hear about ketones all the time, right? The healthy fats that are feeding our brain, which leads to helping with brain fog. A lot of us have brain fogs from various sources, right? Oh, lots of sources. Creating mitochondria, you got the gut resets. You can starve viruses because they actually feed off of the sugars, which I learned out of her book. People have poor insulin reactions. That's why some people get weight resistant. What do they call that? Weight loss resistance?
Like insulin resistant weight loss issues. Yeah. And PCOS is related to insulin resistance as well.
Let's see, immune resets, that's a big one. A lot of people are very concerned about that. A lot of attention to the microbiomes of the gut. There's a lot of reset and restoration of that with some of the shorter fasts. Dopamine pathways, a lot of people are dealing with the depression. It literally costs you nothing. You don't even need a therapist. Give it a chance and check it out. See if it works.
Actually, I know for saves you money because you don't have to eat.
Right. And I don't know if anybody's noticed the inflation lately, but times are tough. Let's see, positive implications for cancer. You can balance hormones. That's another big one. Something that's getting a lot of attention right now is birth control. There's a lot of controversy with the younger folks. They don't want to take it anymore because of the damage, and rightfully so. But if you have taken it, through fasting, you can actually recover from some of that damage, recover from antibiotics, there's detoxing. Let's see, brain function, Alzheimer's implications, SIBO, which I didn't even know what that was until I read about that. But the one, Noel and BL for me, is cholesterol. they tried getting me for a hot minute on this cholesterol thing, and it was the good cholesterol. And then I don't know what's going on there, but everybody I know, and maybe it's my age group, but everybody I know, their doctors are pushing hard like crack dealers trying to get that cholesterol medicine into them, when it outright says, I mean, you do your own research, but it outright says this stuff don't work. Like I don't know why they're pimping it out so bad, but that was what drove me to push for the 36-hour fast, is because that actually lowers your cholesterol. So
Awesome.
yeah, I don't know what's going on with it, but it is like everywhere. Cholesterol. Anyhow.
The other way that this all ties into UV is when we talk about, adaptability, capability, and durability. And if you are someone who, like myself for the longest time, I was diagnosed with hypoglycemia as a teenager, and I was told to eat every couple hours and just keep eating to keep that blood sugar where it needs to be. And that does not make you a very adaptable or durable person at all. And I don't want to be someone that constantly has to have a snack to feel like I'm going to be comfortable, or have to stress out about, do I have enough food around me all the time? And this really comes up on camps sometime. People are very concerned when they come to a campaign if they're going to have enough food and things like that. And we don't want to make anybody uncomfortable.
It's almost a sickness.
But yeah.
Some people, their food bags are bigger than their gear bags.
Yeah.
So.
And, it's just something to think about, because, the goal of UV is to be more adaptable and durable and capable. And you want to know that, if something happens, say you get stranded, that...
Zombie apocalypse.
You do it right for it, Rendelle. That you, don't necessarily have to have a ton of food around you to make it the next couple hours, right? We're not talking anything crazy, but it is interesting to see people work through this on our campaign. So if that's something you feel like, man, I just am really attached to my food, then that's another, draw to UV campaigns. Now, there are times that we don't fast. We go out in winter, like our upcoming Women's Wonderland. We're not fasting. You need to eat to stay warm. I'm going to be eating a steak. Things like that.
I think he covers that in the book, but that's one of our teachings is what fasting is you're digesting your food, which it generates heat because it consumes energy, right? So when you're in a fasted state, your body's no longer digesting food. It can use that energy elsewhere in your body. Yeah. But in the wintertime, you'd burn that energy. It's kind of like stoking the fire to keep you warm. So.
Yep. You want to stay warm. So we eat on purpose, eat on purpose, and sometimes
with intent.
Don't eat are the main two things for the nourishment sphere for UV. So this, really fits in well, and I feel a lot more educated when women say, hey, what should I be doing? I feel much more secure in my information now after reading this book. Whereas before I was just kind of like, well, I don't know. We don't know how it affects women, but I feel confident after reading her book that I could really, I could figure out what I needed to do, and I think anybody could read the book and figure that out.
Yep. And there's even recipes at the end, too.
Yep.
I will say there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't normally eat, but but there are some meat-based items in there. So
because she not only talks about how to fast, she talks about when you're not fasting, how to eat, right? And to support your hormones as well. So it's not just, the last 10 days of my cycle, I'm not fasting, so I can just eat however I want.
That catches up with it.
Yeah. You still want to make sure you're supporting your hormones through the food that you're eating, right? And so she does a great job of explaining all of that.
It breaks it down good.
Yeah.
So, you got anything else?
I think that's it.
I can keep going. I mean, I've been preaching this to all my friends, like, seriously.
Yeah.
I know this is the USA. We got food in the face all the time, but so much marketing and sales in that, like.
Yep.
this is the cheapest thing ever.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't diet like ever in my life. I have never followed. I take advice,
Right.
and I may apply it to my life, but that whole
Not a
I don't know.
fad
I got
diet.
authority issues or something. Like I don't need to be following some plate setup. But this I've definitely experimented with. So the first thing I noticed was my face. I don't know. It has restorative properties to slow down the aging process, but I feel like my face isn't showing the age as much as it did. I mean, I still look older. But, and then the other thing that I noticed right away was the brain fog.
Yeah.
Like I expected to kind of feel powered down, and there are moments like that in the longer fast, but I was very inspired. Like I had a little, what do you call that? It was the nymph or whatever, and the little creature that fairy that keeps you inspired or whatever. I was just knocking some business out, so that was kind of nice. So
Yeah. And to be fair, this is not just under eating, right?
No.
So we know this is the other thing I've struggled in the beginning with related to fasting in women is I work with so many women who are not eating enough calories and protein and carbs and fats to have a proper menstrual cycle. So this is not that. This is not us under eating. This is
no, because when we eat, sometimes we really pack back a steak, man.
Yeah, eating on purpose with intent, and being very intentful about occasionally not eating, right?
Yeah.
In a way to support our metabolism and health. So, there is a section that I'm so glad that she mentioned about if you have any issues with under eating or any eating disorders, to read that section because it may be triggering, and there may be times that you need to stop trying to fast if it's triggering some past eating disorder issues. So that's so prevalent, so it's important to think about that, and I'm sure she covers that in her YouTube.
Oh, probably. I do know that this is a longer book review, and we're not even barely touching it all.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much. So strongly advise that you read the book and then you do further research. Like it's a great stepping stone for more.
Totally.
Just really I think we both have that same, because it's focusing on the differences between, believe it or not, men and women are different. So,
Yep. Okay.
So what do we got?
We got lots of
Hold
things
on,
that we
you got
covered.
I'm going to need you all to like this video. We worked very hard on it, took notes and everything. I'm going to need a comment to know what you thought of it, and if you want to know more, because actually fasting is a big thing with Uncivilized, and there's a lot more intent and purpose behind it. What do we got? Comment with notifications, like seriously. Ring the notification bell, and feel free to share it with all your friends, especially, I'm telling you, the cholesterol thing, you can't miss out on that. And then I'm going to we haven't gotten our first Buy Me a Coffee donation yet. And we really want to get people outside, like everybody. The people who don't want to be outside, we can get them outside because it's so healthy, and it's just a whole another aspect of all this. So that's why we exist, actually, is to get people outside, and the way to get them outside is to get funding for that. So it's an awesome thing.
Okay.
So,
It's right here, right
Ready?
behind your head, right?
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
2 thumbs up.